Y'all, welcome to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. I am your host, the Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach, Giovanni, and I'm so excited, y'all, because we have a journey of strength coming up with my guest, Jammie, with Health and Wellness, Jammie Bear Health and Wellness. But yeah, she also has polycystic ovary syndrome. So she's gonna share her journey of strength, but she also gonna drop that wisdom for y'all for this holistic nutrition. And I'm so excited because she's my first one. But y'all, before we get into this episode, you already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Yes, come on and serve the people, sis. I see you. Yeah, how you feeling today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm gonna give you your own personal thing to introduce yourself, and then we're gonna get into this. I'm excited.
Okay, so I am Jammie of Bear Jammie Health and Wellness. I am a holistic nutritionist. Been doing this for about 8 years. Just really started out found out I had PCOS when I was about 16. My pediatrician knew about it. I had no idea. She called it. I still give her kudos for that because it takes people forever to get that diagnosis, but she knew what she was doing. Got on birth control, as many of us do, to try to regulate periods. I was not well suited for any birth control, maybe a little bit psychotic. And we don't need that. So I wanted to find a more natural, way of doing things. And I'm like, as you get older, you start to think there has to be, what's the cause? What can I do so that I'm not reliant on medication? What else is there? What's causing all these people to have this? People are infertile. We couldn't have always been infertile. What's going on? So I started to look into the whole nutrition aspect. I started to look into, excuse me, what we use in our day-to-day lives, our shampoos, our nail polish, all these different factors, our toxic makeup. All my makeup is non-toxic. Yeah, you got pure hair. You have different brands that you can use for things like that. But I started to look at things differently because being on Clomid for fertility, things like that, it did nothing. That's also used to treat cancer. They don't tell you that. Would you take it? Would you be as apt to take it? Would you be as willing to put that in your body if you knew that? Probably not. But you might be more willing to eat some more cucumbers throughout the week and get your hydration up, get those other minerals up, something beneficial for your body as opposed to that. That's a little bit about me.
I loved it. I love when you say switch out the, what do you call it? The Clomid? Switch out the Clomid for the cucumbers. Yeah, I like that. And sometimes it's like the most simplest things that people, I know I just said most and simplest together. I know it's grammatically incorrect. And yes, I'm a teacher, but hey, we vibing here. But I think sometimes people overcomplicate how to heal their body. And especially when it gets into food. And that has been some of the biggest changes for me. I kind of look at three main pillars, I would say, that's helped me with my polycystic ovary syndrome diagnosis or managing those symptoms, as well as stage 4 endometriosis. They found 2 fibroids at the time of my surgery, and then I had adenomyosis on the left side of my pelvic muscular wall area. And so it was first the mindset, because being diagnosed with so many things that you never even heard of before. First of all, back up, shout out to your pediatrician, because a lot of times people don't know what's really going on. They're not educated, but for at 16 to know, I guess, your signs. What was it? Just irregular periods or?
Yep, that was the primary thing. Yep.
Irregular periods. Okay, so for me, it was irregular periods, and then the presence of facial hair. You can't see it today as I marked it because I just got a fresh wax, but it was the facial hair and the irregular periods that were like automatic, hey, hormone issues, something's going on type stuff. But I didn't get that diagnosis till like 2019, right before my 2020 surgery, to get that, to know for sure that it was endometriosis. So shout out to your healthcare provider for that. Because some people think certain things are normal. I thought irregular periods were normal. Somebody always gave me an excuse or a reason why my period didn't come every single month. And I just chalked it up to, oh, okay, well, then that's it. And I didn't go talk to it about that with my doctor. And then I saw facial hair in my family a lot. Okay, they don't say anything is wrong or that's a sign of anything. I'm thinking it just runs in my family. That's not normal. So I'm glad that we're highlighting certain things that are not normal. But once I got the diagnosis, it was just like all of these different words, all of these different things I'd never heard of before. No one's in my family has ever had them before. I've heard of fibroids. A few of my, one of my closest friends had fibroids. And then my line sister had some fibroids that were really big and she had to have surgery for. So I've heard of certain ones, but nothing of endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so I was just like, I got depressed at first. And I know you kind of talked about like psychotic. So you kind of already know, like mind, mentally, emotionally, things kind of, kind of get kind of weird for us or shift for us. They're not as balanced as other people. And so it was okay, I don't want to be on birth control. Just like you said, you had to get on birth control. I don't want to be on birth control. I think that's great that that's the option you provide, but I heard so many crazy things about birth control. I don't even want that to be an option for me. And so I had to change my mindset. What other ways could I heal? What other ways can I manage this outside of birth control if this is their go-to and there's no cure? And so my OBGYN, Sarah, who's also Black, looks like me, she said, well, sometimes nutrition can help. And I was like, okay, let's go for it. Let me start changing my lifestyle. And so I started slowly but surely, like, I was already pescatarian. Then I started taking out like the gluten and the soy and the dairy, kept the eggs. And then I took out the salmon and the eggs about a little over a year ago. And I'm like pretty much plant-based. And I can see a total difference. Periods are regular. My mood is a whole lot better. Stress has been good. So I'm glad you went the nutritious route. But let me ask you a question. What has been like some of your biggest challenges with polycystic ovarian syndrome so far in your journey?
Probably I had a hyperactive thyroid. I know a lot of people have hypoactive thyroid. I had a hyperactive thyroid, and that triggered them to want me to be on spironolactone, and that would also manage my facial hair and all that. I'm like, well, side effects. Who wants to deal with side effects? Not me. So spironolactone was very short-lived. But so I did have facial hair that has reduced since my change in diet as well. People think I get on my mom's nerves and my husband's nerves because I'm like, sugar's the devil, sugar's evil. There's no place for it in the body. And they're like, you are like crazy over this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's so bad for you. So, I went on, I don't even know how I got on that. I just thought about sugar.
No, because we were talking about like your hyperactive thyroid and you were going in on the medicine that you took for that.
So we had this thyroid issue, the infertility. I didn't really go through weight gain related to my PCOS. That was just poor decision. That was drinking. That was related to alcohol because, with the insulin resistance, we're going to pack on pounds a little bit more quickly. And not that every type of PCOS is insulin resistant, but more than likely it is. We're going to pack those pounds on. It's going to affect us more than it's going to affect the next woman who does not have PCOS. And that's just a fact. So that caused some weight gain as well. But those three things by themselves, the thyroid issue, the facial hair issue, the infertility, that was enough for me to say something's got to happen. Yeah.
I got you. And what have you done to really see that decrease in facial hair? For me, I think the time when it grew back the absolute slowest was when I did like 100-mile challenge in September. And then in October, I did like 70 something ish miles. And it was the consistent walking almost every single day because I was challenging myself with those miles. It was the walking and it was the minimally processed foods and the fact that I'm already plant-based. And because like you hit on that sugar, because I'm mindful of what I'm doing, I'm moving, you plan to put more in your body that's going to fuel you, that's going to make you feel good because you're already moving and feeling good. So it just like pushes you to do more. It's not like, oh, I'm getting in all these miles, let me just eat whatever I want to eat. You know, like it's not like that, because when you're feeling good, you want to do good things for your body and to your body. So I've seen that was like the lowest. I was walking around the house like, oh my gosh, y'all, I can miss my wax appointment date. Look at me. Like it was really helping like with those hormones. And some people would say like, if I can get this facial hair down, it's like, well, are you walking? And they be like, well, I'm walking, but I'm just doing like a mile or two around it. Yo, bump that up to about 3 to 4. And if you're really froggy, push until you can get to 5, and your body's going to start responding to it. But I like that you hit on the sugar aspect too. The sugar cravings and the salt cravings can really, and you hit on thyroid. I had an inflamed thyroid at one point. I didn't know what was going on. Thyroid disease runs in my family too. So I know sometimes people with PCOS end up having some thyroid issues as well. And it was just like, it felt hard to swallow, and it was like some pressure on it. And I didn't know what was going on. So when my PCP was like feeling on, looking at it, she was like, okay, something's going on, you know, with your thyroid. I'm gonna let you go to an endocrinologist. Go to the endocrinologist. They do, you know, like the, I don't know, x-ray, something they monitor, they take the pictures, do the stuff. And they said I had an inflamed thyroid, and they wanted to put me on metformin. And I was like, well, hold on. I've been really intentional about my lifestyle changes. I want to see if it works, because my labs came back normal. Can you, just because I told you I had polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis, and you see this inflamed thyroid, can you go back and check one more time to see if this medicine is necessary? And she went back and looked, and she was like, yeah, you're right. Your labs are normal. Because, you know, she's an endocrinologist. She's never met me before. She ready to say, oh, you got this, and you just said that too? Here you go. And she was like, yeah, they are normal. I think you're fine now. If you ever have any other issues, just come back. Thank you. That was more motivation to tell me that nutrition is working. Mindful eating is working. And so why switch it up or change it? But for you, what was it big time that you just saw like this shift when it comes to facial hair? Because we know that's a big thing for us.
So really quick, I want to touch on the fact that you gave pushback, because I don't think enough of us do that, especially Black women. And I don't know if it's the fear that we don't have enough to back up any rebuttal that the doctor might have, or if it's because we just don't know that there are other options. I don't know, but I'm so happy that you did give that pushback. So for me, the facial hair was primarily sugar. And also me just trying to regulate my hormones, right? So I tried to introduce different like inositol into my diet, berberine, just things that would kind of help my body help itself. I'm really big on making sure that you get the right amount of nutrients. So once I started introducing like herbs and different supplements, the proper foods into my diet, that's when I saw the biggest change. My activity level, I've been pregnant for 2 years in a row now. So it's like, you know, fluctuating. But I do definitely advocate for activity, you know, not just the kind that leads to children. All the other kinds of activity are very important as well. So, you know,
but if you are one of those PCOS sisters struggling with fertility, you know, why not get that activity in as much as possible? Because you just don't know when your body's going to respond to it. I got you.
Exactly. Exactly.
We can make that work. We can make that work. So the burping.
We also reduced a lot. I forgot this because they're one and the same to me at this point. When I stopped drinking, that reduced a lot as well. But alcohol, sugar, same thing.
I got you. The burping, does that are you getting that from a food source or?
So that comes from Oregon grape. That I get from an herb.
Okay.
But you can, I've also taken just the supplements, because who feels like brewing tea all the time? If you're on the go, you don't necessarily have time for that. So
I got you.
I'm not.
So do you just get the herb itself, or is there already a tea form? Like, how do you go out and get that? Because I've seen a lot of people promote all these different types of supplements, but they never necessarily say the sources they get it from. Because, you know, some people aren't for capsules, you know, and some people like to go to the natural source and figure it out. So I'm curious to know.
I would just get the herb.
Just the herb itself? Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Capsules, things are hit and miss because you got heavy metals with it. That's why I'm big on diet. Once again, I'm like, yes, you have heavy metals in your food, but it's not concentrated into this pill form. That's just all, you know, like you have fiber carrying things out. You have other components when you're eating your nutrition, as opposed to just popping a pill and taking your 6 ounces of water, or whatever people do. 2 gallons of Pepsi. I don't know.
Where do you think a lot of us are getting this heavy metal intake from? What are some of those things you feel like we're exposing ourselves to or consuming that is allowing us to get access or consume this heavy metal? And then what can we do to start reducing the heavy metals that we are kind of accustomed to getting?
Supplements. I think supplements, whether it be your protein powder or your multivitamin, that's the biggest factor that's coming in. It's also our soil, unfortunately, and that's why, for a multitude of reasons, eating organic is super important, because you're getting that soil that hasn't been adulterated by the pesticides, so you haven't lost as much nutritional value. Now, they're very transparent that they have been spraying the air, so we know that things have been tainted to an extent. But as long as we're sticking with as organic as possible, whole foods as opposed to supplements and powders, things like that, vaccines, not going to delve into that, but that is another method that heavy metals are being introduced to our bodies.
So you wouldn't recommend any protein powders? Because I know a lot of people get in protein powders, especially if they're like on a plant-based diet or something like that, and they're looking at it to be, I think we talked about it before, like a meal replacement, instead of just adding fruits and vegetables and combining things by itself. They go and try to get this extra flavor or a different thing inside of it. Would you just not recommend protein powders at all? Is there something on the label we should be looking at to see what it has in it in order to know if it has some heavy metals?
So you can look on the label, absolutely. I think that we should be checking labels left and right, especially now, because so many things are popping up with bioengineered ingredients, or you don't even know what's going to be popping onto your label next. They might have the lab-grown meat out in the stores without making the announcement. So you have to be reading everything that you're consuming. But I actually have protein powder, because especially during my first trimester, I can't keep food down well, or I'm just not trying to eat. It's just not working with me. But you want to research the company, see who's testing them for heavy metals, see where their things come from. Unfortunately, things that come from China, certain powders that come from China, you're going to have a higher incidence of them having higher heavy metal levels. It is what it is. It's the regulations. Not across the board, but typically that's what you're going to encounter. So, you want to not get the brand that costs $10 a pound. It's just not going to be high quality. And it's probably going to be more filler and not good protein. We want to be looking for pea proteins. We want to be looking for whey if you want that. I don't do dairy if I don't have to. So, but because that's full of hormones too. Don't get me started on milk and the dairy industry and eggs and everything that's in that, because you're going to also, if you're consuming it, it's going to affect you on a cellular level. That's how food is broken down, period. So, but whey protein, pea protein, hemp seeds, you can just grind those up and make a protein powder, essentially. You can get your protein through chickpea milk. I started giving that to my son because I got him off of formula as soon as possible. And he's on chickpea milk, and he's on kiki milk and coconut milk, but all these small things,
they add up. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing, because all of that is rooted around a lifestyle. And it's a lifestyle that you're not only, providing for yourself, but you're also making sure you're passing that down to your child now. And so many people, I feel like, when they are making healthy habits and lifestyle changes, they are doing it for themselves, and they know why they're doing it for them, but they don't want to bring their kids along into that transition as well, because they want to say, well, when I was a kid, I ate this, that, and the fourth, or I had this, and no one told me I couldn't have that, and it's just kind of like, when you expose your children to things that are better for them and beneficial for them, like, why separate what you're trying to expose them to and help them with that is better for them? You talk about toxic friends, but you don't want to talk about toxic food when it comes to how you're helping influence your children and navigate relationships with friends, and relationships with your food are also very important relationships that you should be, nurturing into your children, no matter what age they are. So I like that. You talked about making sure you're getting in the right nutrients, and when you are pregnant, and trying to make sure you have the right nutritional value for yourself, and you're getting the benefits that you need. And sometimes you have to get it from certain sources that you don't really like because your body's not able to handle it. What are some insight that you would give to mothers who are in that parenting stage or that body stage when it comes to their nutritional health? What are some things that you should tell them that want to get pregnant, and the ones that are pregnant? How do they really guide that? Because I love that you said that what you eat, what you consume, is going to hit you and impact you on a cellular level.
So I think that there's so many things that need to be taken into consideration when we decide to become pregnant. I think that we need to be doing a full body detox before we try to be growing a new life. We need to be clean, whole, and that also includes some meditation, maybe some fasting. You need to be completely in as pure a state as we can reset ourselves to before we bring this pure entity into the world, right? Once we're doing that, I think that we need to be ridding sugars from our diet for the entirety of the pregnancy. It's very difficult because those cravings, you're like, if you want apple pie, you want apple pie. You're not trying to look for an alternative. They're not easy to find. But if we're training our bodies to not crave that type of sugar, then we may not be encountering those types of cravings throughout. We need to also be making sure that we're incorporating as much fiber into our diet. Our digestive system slows down about 30% during pregnancy. So you need to keep things moving. That's part of the reason that we're having gestational diabetes. You're not eating that fiber. You're not getting the correct nutrients and getting it out in time, right? We need to have good water intake prior to pregnancy. You don't want to go into anything malnourished. When you are pregnant, you need to be mindful that whatever you're consuming is what literally is going to your baby. I try not to eat anything that's not organic without being pregnant. But now that I am pregnant, it's like even more important because I don't want those pesticides. You don't know what types of pesticides people are using. We got plastics going on. We don't want that. And I encourage people to only use glass if possible. So many small things, like we said, but they make a huge difference, right? So we're cutting the sugars. We're going to try to cut the carbs out because, again, gestational diabetes, we're not intaking, if you're eating good carbs, if you're sitting there eating half an avocado and some hemp seeds and some quinoa, I'm not going to jump down your throat. But that's typically not what we're munching on. We have a slice of pizza and a cannoli. So we need to be cutting carbs early on, getting that mindset, because we also don't want to be giving these things to our babies, right? I'm very adamant about not giving my son starch before 2 because they just don't have the enzymes to digest it, period. It's not about what tastes good. And my mom's like, oh, madam, I gave you blah, blah, blah. And I got PCOS, ECOS, this, that, the third. I had to do this. So yeah, we're not going down that road again. So
that's typical. That is typically the response. And I don't know if it's in other communities, but in Black families, Black communities, that is typically the response. Or I've been eating like this the whole time and nothing ever's happened. Or if it like that is
our men are bold at 30 and we need IVF, and that just shouldn't be. So no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what your parents did. They messed up. You don't need to be following suit. You know what I mean? Now we know better. Now we know.
Agreed. And I think that's the thing. And it's as you continue to know better, start making the intentional changes to do better and live better and treat your body better and love yourself better, because it all just boils down to your decision and your choices, and what it is that you're doing, because your reason for doing it has to be bigger than that's just what I'm comfortable with doing or familiar with, or I've seen everybody else do it, or, it has to be this open mind. And I think that's why for me, I was telling you earlier that mindset was key. Like if your mindset isn't where it needs to be on what it is that how you should treat yourself, the life that you were created to live and to be vibrant, not to struggle with not being able to have kids if you're, a woman and your body is going against you. And I feel like a lot of times people with polycystic ovary syndrome or endometriosis or thyroid issues, a lot of times we feel like our body is attacking us or going against us, when it's just like, how do we best align with our body, connect again, like you said, meditation and fasting. How do we connect back to our body that we get more control over our life? And that's the whole essence of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast, is we want to tell you what it is that we've done on our journeys, in hopes that if there's something that sounds beneficial to you, that you just try it and see if it works for you. Because what works for Giovanni, what works for Jammie may not be the same thing that works for you, but the whole point is for us to share our stories, tell you about our journey, and see what it is that you want to take from this in order to go and empower your own life and your own healing journey in your hands. Like that's just what it boils down to. You talked about food. Where do you feel like we should get the best, our should be our number one food source that we're going to? Where should we get that best food, that organic food, or the food
farmer's
that you
market? The farmer's market. If you're into meal kits, I think Green Chef is 100% organic now. Sunbasket has a lot of really great vegan and organic options. I actually just got Daily Harvest, and I didn't realize that their ingredients are raw when they come in. Yeah. I got some sort of bolognese. It had lentils and tomatoes and carrots and everything. And I had to cook it a little bit because I was going to share it with my son. And not so much with the lentils, but anyway, I had to cook it a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is like really completely raw food, aside from the tomato sauce that came in. So I'm kind of like co-signing Daily Harvest at this point too. And that's only for people who don't have the ability to go to a farmer's market or don't have the organic produce. It's less and less I'm seeing it in grocery stores. So the next best option is to grow it yourself. I know we don't all have yards, but just as you have plants behind you, have plants behind me, we can get little indoor gardening systems, and you can get your lettuce, you can get your cilantro, whatever you need right in your house. There's a will, there's a way. I don't know of any food pantries that wouldn't have vegetables. I don't know of anywhere that you would go and you wouldn't find fruit. These are just pretty across the board. I don't recommend canned anything. I would say go frozen, flash frozen if possible. Can, again, heavy metals. Food is leaching. Whatever vessel your food is in is going to be leaching into your food. So you want your fruit and your veggies to come in the vessel that they're supposed to come in. Nothing else. No plastic, no nothing. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that, because a lot of times people don't know where to go to get the best food for them. And you just hit on grow your own lettuce. Did you see the thing that they just passed about the lettuce, and now that lettuce is having like vaccine in it? Yeah, girl. And so like my friend sent it to me, and she's into like herbs and stuff like that, and she grows certain products and stuff, just like what you were talking about. And everybody doesn't have that green thumb, like both of mine are brown. But I feel now that the more they're continuing to impact us through food, more than they already have, and we're becoming more aware of it, and it's like out there, it's like, what are we going to do? Like, we need to really start making a plan. And it's not always we're going to leave the country, because I plan to definitely leave the country to get to a better food source. I think we talked about that before. Yeah. And we'll have those retreats over there. Y'all come through and see the difference, feel the vibes. We're going to get there. But I love that you said go to the farmer's market. And that's key, because a lot of people don't know to go to the farmer's market. But if you don't have a farmer's market, you just gave us a whole bunch of stuff. We're used to having things come to our door anyway. So being able to have you vouch for that as a holistic nutritionist is beautiful. So thank you for that insight. What would you say, or what advice would you say to people? Because we see it all the time in Facebook groups, who said, I tried everything and nothing's working. I've tried diet changes and nothing working. And they don't specifically tell you what exactly they've changed. What role do you believe plant-based nutrition plays in the lives of people who are trying to reverse or manage symptoms of polycystic ovary syndrome?
Okay, I want to touch back on the food really quick because microgreens, I can't believe I forgot about that. I started putting them into my son's food too because he's not always feeling broccoli and things like that. So I did start giving him microgreens. And when I'm not feeling eating a salad per se that day, I'll blend that into my smoothie too. My son gets a teaspoon, adults 2 tablespoons. You're good. So as far as people, I'm trying to remain as politically correct during this conversation because I actually was just talking to my husband about how people don't want to make changes that just don't fit the mold for what they want in their lives. They don't want to make a dietary change because it's a real change. And people want, people, as much as we say, oh, I can adapt to change and I'm adventurous. No, people like normalcy. People are used to what they know and they want to keep what they know. I get that. But you're going to also become friends with sickness. You're going to also become friends with your pharmacist, not the hood pharmacist. I'm talking about the other one that will literally bleed you dry monetarily, So, the first thing is that we have to start trying different things to get different results. A plant-based diet is quite literally what most other animals are kind of living off of. And I've heard the comparison for, us and gorillas. Oh, well, gorilla, we have different digestive systems. We're not cows. We can't do the same things that other animals can do in that sense. However, if you look at what plants provide, where they come from, where we come from, what we're composed of from a cellular level, again, our bones, our blood, a lot of similarities in these things, right? So we have to be able to get a lot of the same things that we need from plants. Once your body can focus on not having to pull nutrients from sugar that has none, right? Because you're feeding it nothing with nutritional value. Once your body can focus on the other things going on instead of trying to just get what it needs to survive, you will flourish. All the other little ailments that you have they will start to diminish because your body can then say, oh, wow, I'm fully vitalized. You can't keep running on 2 hours of sleep. You're going to fall out eventually. And that's essentially what you're giving your body when you're not fueling it properly. So once you switch to that correct diet for the human body, and that may vary. Some people have a higher protein requirement. Some people have a higher whatever requirement. But it doesn't vary but so much. So once we cut these useless things out of our systems, we'll see that the metabolic diseases that are triggered from not following that plant-based diet, you'll see that you don't have those issues anymore. You'll see that you have the energy to go walk so that you're not saying, oh, I can't get up and do the track today. My back is aching. Well, that's because you have chronic inflammation. That's why your back is aching. Okay.
And where does that inflammation come from?
Your poor diet. It comes from drinking all that Mountain Dew. It comes from eating them hot dogs and the ribs. Because what is meat? Acid. What is acid? Inflammatory. People aren't really. We have to be mindful of what we're consuming.
I agree. And speaking of mindful, tell me, what is give me your 2 mindful eating practices that you feel like are really just vital to your being. Because I was into mindful eating. And when I thought about mindful eating initially, it was just me being literally mindful of what I'm eating, conscious of my eating choices. And then when I looked more into it, it was like, oh no, this is like a whole thing. Like, this is like a practice. Like, this is not a simple approach to things. And I took like this mindful eating course and I was just like blown away. And I was just like, we are mindlessly eating as a culture in so many different aspects, and in so many ways in our family, and just like when you go to the movies, their concession stand, like you go get popcorn, and the whole time you're watching a movie, you're just eating popcorn. You're not even thinking, am I hungry? Do I want this? When should I stop? And even with your family, like, go get you something to eat. Let's watch this TV show, or let's do this. And it's just like, that is so, like, it blew my mind when I took that certification course about mindful eating, that I was taking this little small thought process of, I'm just mindful of what I'm eating, to it's a whole practice. What are like 2 of your favorite mindful eating practices that you feel like has been very impactful for your journey thus far?
To be mindful of when you're actually hungry versus when you're thirsty, because we're like mostly water. And a lot of the time, if you take the time to just maybe drink one of the cups of water that you're supposed to have a minimum of 8 of per day, you might notice that you're not hungry. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, for me personally, and I might be a weirdo, I eat with my eyes like a lot of people do, but I like to see the variation in color. I like to see, when I see like the purple from the beets or the cabbage on my plate, I'm like, oh, the antioxidants that I'm getting in my body, it's going to be purging my skin. I get really excited about what I'm eating. And I think if people are mindful, what's in this sauce? Is it date syrup, which is actually giving me a whole bunch of vitamins and some protein and, great stuff? Or is my barbecue sauce made out of cane sugar, which is giving me nothing? Is this, I think once we're breaking down what we're eating, we're going to want to eat a little bit differently. If you want to see results within yourself, if you want that boost of energy level, you're going to want to eat bright foods. When I was pregnant with my son, I had a plate of pancakes, potatoes, bacon, eggs, and it's all brown. And it was the biggest turnoff. It was just like, I don't want all this colorless food. And just thinking about the fact that I'm not a dull person, that's not what type of energy I give off, or the type of energy that I want going in. So I think that is a big part of mindful eating too. Just look at what you're consuming. Look at what is it composed of? Do you want to be composed of these same things? Do you want to be void of nutrition and energy and color, or do you want to be vibrant?
I love it. And I think when you said it, it made me think about social media. You know how these people be like, okay, here we go. Y'all getting ready to post these low vibrational plates, when people get around like Thanksgiving. When you were saying that, I was like, oh my goodness, here we go with the culture again. And so many people, like, I think what you're saying is true. When you see the color, you feel so much better. Like, you just feel like, oh my God, I'm about to do my body a favor. Let's dab into this thing. Like, it gets you excited. And I have a friend who loves like plating her food, like, and she plates it, and she loves the different colors and how she puts it all together. And I think it's so cool because I don't think about it like that. I just be ready to eat, and I think about taste. I think about texture. I think about how the flavors are going to all come together when I eat. But I do feel so much better when I do see a lot of different color. And then when my plate is a lot of brown, like if it's just, let's say, potatoes and mushrooms, or something like that, and then it's just kind of like, okay, this is looking good, but it's like good and comforting, and it's going to be slightly on the heavier, tastier side, but not necessarily the vibrant side. Like, I'm getting in like all of my like, it's not as high with the nutritional value, and you can feel that way because it's not as high in color. So I love that. Eat with your eyes. And then, am I really hungry or am I thirsty? I think that's really good. And I guess because I just finished these, I try to do like 3 days of a great fast or whatever. I tried my first one last week. And a lot of the time it was like, I can drink the coconut water. I can drink the canned water. I'm eating these grapes, but like, now I want something salty. I want a nut. I want some sunflower seeds. And it's like, should I just drink some more coconut water? Should I just drink some more water? Should I just eat some more grapes because I want to chew? Is it, I just want to chew something? Or, so it makes you start thinking about, what is it that you really want to do? Because if I wasn't being consistent with just consuming grapes for that time period, I could have just been reaching for any and everything just to be saying I'm eating because I want to chew, and not really figuring out what is my trigger right now. Is it really a food cue? Is it a hunger cue right now, Giovanni? Or is it that you just want to do something? Because if you just want to do something, get up and go walk. Get up and go do this or do that. Like it's a total different thing. And some people are like, nah, if you hungry, you hungry. No, you're just prone and conditioned to eat when you want to do something because you're bored. And it's not necessarily you taking that time to really figure out what it is that you're doing. But because I'm not well versed in the fasting thing, what are some tips for people who want to get into fasting so they can start connecting with their body, so they can get more of that control into what they're eating and when they're eating, so they get that knowledge? Because that knowledge is power, but that knowledge really comes from yourself and getting to know you. What are some fasting tips that you have for people who want to get into fasting but don't know where to start?
Intermittent fasting, because we're talking about, you and I are talking about like 1, 2, 3 day fasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about
but I'm talking intimate, like just fasting for a period of time. Because some of us can eat at 9 o'clock when we think we're hungry, and that's not necessarily best for your circadian rhythm in your body, because now it has to digest while you're trying to sleep. And then we know that polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, sleep hygiene is real. Sleep hygiene is real for anybody, but you want to try to get in, that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But your body can't sleep if it's still processing foods because you wanted to eat something at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So, at first I'm talking to mono fast, just trying to get in and strengthen it and be consistent with one thing. But I'm just talking fasting in general, just being conscious of fasting and the role it plays in your body.
So we do live in a culture that told us that we have to eat all the time. You need 3 meals a day, 3 snacks coupled with that 3 meals, and you need to be drinking a cup of water with that. And you can have all the juice and tea and coffee that you want in the interim. And we just don't need that much food, because especially now we live super sedentary lifestyles. I work remotely, and I probably exercise more working remotely than I did in the office. But my mom was the opposite. She goes into the office and she's walking 3-4 miles during her lunch. I ain't walking nowhere during my lunch either place. But yeah, so we don't need to eat as much as we do. We don't. I would encourage snacks over the full meals, if anything. And we have to keep in mind that snacks don't have to be sandwiches. A snack can be an apple. You can munch on something and it be healthy. You can find some hummus that you like. People get freaked out. I don't like chickpeas. Well, you probably would. Okay, find a flavor profile that you like within the hummus. Don't just assume because it's called a garbanzo bean that you're not going to like it. There are healthy snacks that we can be incorporating into our daily lives like that will help us to kind of curb the cravings for just to eat, because we do eat because we're bored. We eat because of an emotion. We eat because of whatever may be going on. I can't take that away from people, but we just need to kind of think about what we could be eating that's a little bit better for us than the popcorn and the Haagen-Dazs or whatever. Where were we? I have mom brain. You have to forgive me.
No, you're okay. And I am hungry, so everything you're saying is good. And chickpeas for me used to work, and it didn't. Like the way I digest them and they come out, it just doesn't. Like, and I'm okay with that. So like beans, certain like beans, they just don't sit well with me. I don't know if it's just my body saying nah, and I don't like the way certain stuff come out. And after a certain period of time, you stop eating things that don't agree with you because you don't like the way it makes you feel. And that momentary of, I don't want to say, I know people say like gluttony, that moment of lusting over, certain foods, and you just want to eat it and you just got to have it and you're craving it. I'm all for doing that in moderation if you really feel like your body feels the need to do it. Don't, stress yourself out, and it now pushes you into another realm of health issues and concerns because you're, trying to abstain from something like that. But like, get you a bite or two of it and then leave it away. Don't feel like you got to get a whole cake and eat the whole cake just because you want some pound cake. Like get a slice of pound cake, enjoy it, and let that move on through. See that pound cake in a while, and as long as you can until you get back to it. I'm all for that. Like, don't guilt yourself in the stuff that you eat. Just do certain things in moderation if you know it doesn't align with your body and it doesn't serve your body the way it needs to. But we were on fasting. Like, how do people approach the fasting?
So with that, we eat too much typically, and
overeating.
You just have to do it. There's not a magic potion for like a lot of these things. It's literally, I'm going to start fasting. I know that I have been eating X amount of food for the past 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and that my body can go until noon tomorrow without any food in it. And you don't necessarily have to go for that long of a stretch. You can start with, I'm not going to eat anything until 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, bump it up every week. And then you can bump your end time down each week as well. You know, you can start from the nighttime. I'm going to stop eating at 6 o'clock, as opposed to, you know, there are different ways that you can approach the intermittent fasting, but you just have to do it. You have to just make a conscious decision. Once you start to getting into longer time frames, that's when I think that nutrition is super important. You need to not only be focusing on, I'm not going to eat as much or as often. You need to be focusing on, when I am eating, that mindful eating. Okay, am I getting all of the nutrients that I need in a day in this meal or in these 2 meals? If you're not, then you're wasting your time eating it. Once you come out of this fast, you're going to realize that, you know, because by that time you'll be cleansed, you'll be more focused on what's beneficial to you. You'll see that you're wasting money on food that's not beneficial to you. And I've been grocery shopping pretty often for the past few days and spent about $500 on things that should not have come to $500. So once we do those things, then we can start looking at the longer fasts. But those are, again, once you're familiar with what herbs you're going to supplement with. Because if you're going a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't personally condone just water for those fasts or just a piece of fruit for those fasts, or, you know, like that's not, I'm not
nutritionally sound.
No, it's just not, especially because the standard American diet and soil is so screwed. And it's been that way for so long, it's just not advisable, in my opinion, for most people. Now, if you've grown up eating, you know, farm-raised animals, you know, and you got your own vegetables being grown all your life, you've been drinking the well water and all that good stuff, then fine. You know, your body might be able to tolerate that. But those longer fasts, absolutely not, unless you know that your body is up for it. I know that nettles and sarsaparilla are really good herbs. They're going to give you a lot of the nutrients that you need, and sea moss as well. So you could supplement with those 3 if you're looking to maybe do like a 3-day fast just to kind of, you know, get your feet wet. I would be okay with somebody who, if they built up to that point with intermittent fasting that they feel comfortable going for days, absolutely. I would also keep in mind that you shouldn't go back from eating a fast, start with a hamburger or anything like a salad, something that has too much roughage. It's going to be hard on your digestive system. The longer you're going without food, you need to ease yourself back into eating food again. Same thing with like the stomach virus.
I like that. When you first started saying, it made me go back to change again. People always say they want change, but they're really not trying to do anything to get the change that they say they really want, because it's so hard to embrace change. And saying embrace, that brings me back to something else. People always feel like, because we were on that plant-based role, nutrition plays in the role of polycystic ovary syndrome. People always try to think about what I need to replace based on what it is that they're naturally consuming versus what do I need to embrace. And you've given us so much information on all the different things, from herbs to food, to embracing fragrances that aren't, you know, toxic, and protein powders that don't have heavy metals in it. And I want to get back into some of those like cleaning products that you really got into, and how you kind of went through that transition. But I love all of that insight. And because I've seen so many people getting into sea moss, and I've tried it and it's not as good, but I just know it's so beneficial, not just for my thyroid, but for polycystic ovary, like just like overall well-being. Sea moss is really good for you. And it's like finding the right kind and right way to get it in, because no one is going to continuously do something that's nasty to them, you know, just to do it because they know it's beneficial. You have to find good ways to get in the good things that are good for you. That is like the biggest philosophy I have. Like, when I'm talking plant-based nutrition and I'm enjoying my plant-based lifestyle, it's because I found good food that's good for me. I'm not saying y'all just get bored with it and eat a salad, because salad isn't for everybody. There's so many great creative foods and meals you can have. That's why I love Black plant-based chefs. And that's why they have a special place on Empire Plates and Power Lives podcast, because I love a good food experience, and food experiences does not have to be bland. It does not have to be boring. They could be really good and tasty. And because they're Black plant-based chefs, they're able to get that taste and that texture that we're already comfortable and familiar with. They're just giving it to us in a better version for us to be able to consume and have a high, vibrant life that we enjoy. And food is such a big thing for us around our culture. It's just like, y'all dive into this good food. Like, get these Empire Plates and bowls in your life, because they are vital and they help with your vitality. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you're a nutritionist, and that's just like a big thing for me. So I'm glad you hit on those things, because I do want to get in. I don't know if I should do the sea moss gel or like the sea moss gummies, but I have to find a way to get sea moss as a part of my regular lifestyle, because I want to make sure I'm getting in that complete nutrition. And I know we talked about it before about like nutritional deficiencies. Like, a lot of us are eating a whole bunch of food that don't have nutrient value when it comes to what we're eating and putting on our plate. Even when it comes to just like certain fruits are valuable in so many different nutrients. But if you're I'm gonna just speak from personal experience with my family. For some of my family members, you need to have rice, gravy, meat. Like, you need those hearty, starchy things that have no nutritional value at all, where you can overload yourself in the beans and the greens and you can still do some of these other things, but the reason why you're feeling the way you're feeling, the inflammation is the way it is, the health problems are the way they are, and it's a consistent thing and cycle, it's because we're not getting in the nutritional value that we need. And you just said it's as simple as sometimes even drinking the right tea to get in what you need. It doesn't even have to be you have to cook this lavish meal, because I'm not one who likes to stay in the kitchen, but I love to eat. And you can make things simple, when it comes to that type of stuff. But being that you are a Black woman and you are, how do you feel like being a Black woman and your impact of managing PCOS has shaped who you are today? And how do you want that message to resonate to other people? Because you were diagnosed at 16. I just got this diagnosis in 2019. So what I'm going into year 5, with it, what going on year 5, because it'd be later into the year. It was like around October, November-ish that I got mine in 2019. What do you feel like your approach to managing this personally and professionally as a holistic nutrition is as a Black woman? Like, what's your thing?
My thing, that's a really good, I don't know if I've ever thought about what my thing is. My thing is, we have to just recognize what our body is telling us, right? Our body is telling us with any ailment, I'm lacking somewhere. I need support somewhere. So my approach from there just goes into, depending on what the ailment is, finding out what causes PCOS. I actually looked into it a few times, and the science and the history, everything behind it is spotty, probably for good reason. But it's like the first real case was in like 1920. So what changed between all of history and 1920? Diet. Probably the amount of movement, and probably some of the things that we were being exposed to externally. What was being pushed on the market then? What medicines were being pulled from the market? Oh, well, we stopped taking certain herbs. We took out beef tallow and we replaced it with canola oil. We started changing out so many things from this older diet. We shunned this older diet, and we've now embraced all these terrible oils, and the food pyramid is inverted. It's terrible. So my approach is just like digging deep, finding that sickness it's not a normal thing. It should not be a normal thing. It has no place in my body. What contributes to this? Oh, this is a trigger for that. Let me reduce this. What can I do to get the same, I guess, results that I'm looking for? We want to be satiated at the end of the day. We want to feel that we've been fulfilled in whatever we put into our body, that we've been rewarded because we work for our money to get our groceries. But what else can I be putting in to fill that gap? So I think once we take a step back, recognize ourselves, what we need, and where we're falling short, then we can start to heal all these other problems that we have. A lot of things are psychological. We're very hard on ourselves. We're not telling ourselves, yo, I got this. I'm going to get through this PCOS because my body is built to do certain things. My body can literally heal itself. I just have to be mindful of what it needs to help that along, because we're the ones who injure our bodies. We come out perfect. It's whatever else we're ingesting that's causing the issues.
I love it. Thank you for that. I loved everything that you just said, and it takes things back to root causes, because so many times people will just take a diagnosis for whatever diagnosis the doctor gives you, and then you just say, I have it, this is what I'm claiming it, and then you really just start identifying in those signs and those symptoms, and you just allow your personal identity to be with that. Oh, is this, instead of saying, let me take some of this power back. Thank you for the labs. Thank you for the diagnosis. Thank you for body for telling me what state you're in right now. Now, how do I go and address this? How do I heal this? What changes do I need to make to best support my well-being? So that's what I got out of that. And I love it, because when I looked into it, because at the beginning, I wasn't looking into this stuff. I didn't want to be even more depressed. Now that I know that my body has all of these different diagnoses, because I thought I was good. I thought I was healthy. I thought I was, living pretty okay. And then it was just like, no, I felt betrayed. I felt overwhelmed, and I was just like, no, let's get this. And in that state of mind, you're never going to get in a place where you're feeling empowered and you're feeling controlled and you're feeling like I deserve better and I know I can feel better, and I'm not giving myself an excuse to have the symptoms and signs that I have. Let me change it. And a lot of stuff with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome and fibroids, they link it to inflammation. And then going beyond inflammation, what's causing these inflammation? And it could be, like you said, food. Then you say environmental exposure, and what's all in there. And I think you said one other thing. You said food, environmental exposure, and it was one other thing.
Spiritual, psychological.
I think it was your mindset, like, what you're really believing in regards to it. But let's go into that environmental exposure, and then we'll get into those last few questions. You talked about it before, and you talked about reducing the toxins in your products, and you talk about the fragrances, and we're really getting down to these hormone, disruptors, the endocrine disruptors. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of that, because I don't think a lot of people know the candles that they use, the body fragrances that they use, the body products that they use. All of this plays a role because you're putting it on your skin. So it's getting into your body.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, it's getting into your body. And a lot of times, we get overwhelmed and we start seeing all of these, environmental friendly products and these, fragrance-free stuff, and we just can't go buying every single thing, and we don't even know exactly what to buy and what's really what they say it is, because anybody can put anything on the label, if you're not mindful of checking some stuff out. Talk a little bit about making those changes and what it is that you're looking for when you're trying to make those changes in regards to minimalizing the toxins that you're exposed to. Because I know I did it with my water, like with all of the plastic with PCOS, and I wish I could find more people that had, other utensils for us to use versus plastic when you go out and buy things. But it's like, I don't even drink water out of the bottle anymore. Like, I'm on a canned water source. So just talk about some of the ways that people can start making those changes within their lifestyle and what to expect with their bodies.
Okay. So as far as cleaning products, household and personal body hygiene products, we don't really need soap for everything, especially our genital area. So like the summer's eve, not only is it not good for you, but it's throwing off your pH typically. And I know they have the sensitive skin formula and all that. you just need water down there. Like I have 2 kids now, trust me, you just need water. There's nothing wrong. And that's another thing diet plays a huge role in. You're not going to be as funky if you're eating properly. So keeping that in mind, we don't need summer's eve at all. You don't need the spray, none of that. Deodorant, you can literally just mix coconut oil and baking soda and a drop or 2 of essential oil, and you're good to go. You can clean with vinegar, because there are some brands that are like, you have some that are greenwashing, like Method and Mrs. Meyer's. 7th Generation is even, some of their products are like now. So you don't want to end up spending that extra money and still getting the toxic chemicals. So you're better off, if you can't spend top dollar, just making stuff yourself. You can get some cheap vodka. I know some people don't want it in their house, but you can literally clean with it. That's why you shouldn't be drinking it, right? So you get some 100 proof. It's 100 proof rum. You can do the same thing with that, but I prefer to use vodka over rum. Rum is made from sugarcane, sticky, all that good stuff.
So what you're using with the vodka? I'm interested. I've never heard this before. So you're taking the vodka and putting it with the vinegar. What are you doing with the vodka?
No, just the vodka, because it's just like using alcohol. You're going to disinfect whatever surface. Yep. And that's cheap. I think I saw it I was in New Orleans for a conference in September, and I happened to stop at a gas station, and they sell alcohol in the gas station. That's like not a thing in New Jersey. And the vodka was like $3 for a pint or something like that. It was some ridiculous price. But we all know that there's the bottom of the shelf, the Majorska, whatever vodka. You can use that to clean. That's how you get rid of your liquor, right?
Look at you making the changes. That's cool.
But vinegar is going to do the same thing. If you need something to scour with, you can use coffee grounds. There are different things that we can use that are naturally occurring to kind of reduce that incidence. There are some holistic nutritionists who are anti-soy candles. Once you get out of the soy realm, once again, you're going into a higher price tag. You're going into it being more difficult to find. And I'd rather people have that mental well-being. Some people need their candles in their bath. Get a soy candle. Make sure that it doesn't have it should just say soy and natural oils. The smaller number of ingredients, the better. There are a couple of brands. I like Pure Haven. They have some really good non-toxic products, but they're a little bit up there. And Thieves products for laundry detergent, things like that. Body soap. Dr. Bronner's, any Castile soap that you want, get that. If you want some extra moisturizing, mix that with some sweet almond oil. If you want some shampoo, some black soap mixed with some shea butter, and you now have a moisturizing shampoo. Because all of these brands are being brought out. Shea Moisture is no longer great for you. Mielle, I think is how you pronounce the other brand. It's no longer good. Once they got bought out, they started adding things. So it's better to just keep whatever you need on deck. You can use mayo for conditioner as opposed to some of these other things. The hair glues, the synthetic braiding hair, all of that stuff. I don't care how much you wash a chemical in apple cider vinegar, you're not washing away the fact that it's a chemical. It's not going to be beneficial sitting on your scalp in direct contact with your biggest organ. It's just not good. Our foundation, once you change your diet, get some exfoliating going, you don't need all that mess in your skin. Your nails, they need to breathe. You don't need nail polish. These are just things that you're going to be saving money and some hormonal disruptors on. Yeah.
That was beautiful. I loved it. I learned so much in just that one aspect. Like you really have been coming with the wisdom, and I'm so grateful for you. And I'm grateful that you are able to have this conversation at the level that you are in with your lifestyle and your healthy habits that you've been able to change. And I think that's beautiful. And I hope you give yourself credit for it, because I know it's so hard to start making those shifts, standing in your beliefs, and then having to pretty much defend yourself when other people have these conversations and questions and pushback in what you're doing and how you're doing it, or just saying, well, you're going to be exposed to it anyway in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And it's just like, my intentions on doing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is rooted in a thought, a belief, a feeling, and I know it's helping and shaping me more than just saying, oh, well, I'm going to be exposed to something. It's not like I'm living a perfect lifestyle just because I'm making these changes. No, I'm just being intentional about my lifestyle, making these changes, hoping that every single change that I make is going to align in my greater being and for my well-being. So I thank you for sharing those things and getting into products. I'm going to get into this question because I know you do have a husband. I don't know. I feel like you have boys, but I'm not sure. Do you have daughters? Are they all boys? Both boys?
This is a girl. I only have one thus far. She'll be here in 3 months.
Okay. So you have a daughter. All right.
I have a son presently and a daughter on the way.
Okay. And so this is for a girl dad. So your husband's about to be a girl dad, or he's already a girl dad because she's here. But she's going to be coming in the present realm. You know, she already has that heartbeat. What are some insights and tips would you give to fathers or father figures who have girls in regards to supporting them through their menstrual health, or just them as a female, period, but most importantly with that menstrual health? Because a lot of times we don't allow men to be in the conversation when it comes into menstrual health talk, womb health, reproductive health, because we know that polycystic ovary syndrome is a whole body thing. Endometriosis is a whole body. Just a lot of times our initial signs that lead us to the diagnosis starts with our menstrual cycle. And so that's just sometimes where the misconception comes in. But what are some of those tips that you have for girl dads in regards to supporting their daughters with reproductive health and women's health, from products to tips to mindset? What talk to the girl dads right now and the father figures for girls, because all of them might not be biological fathers, but they're role models, taking care of females. Give them some of that bare Jammie insight that you got for them.
Well, my dad was fantastic. He was very open to whatever I had to talk about. So like when I found out that I had PCOS, that also was coupled with the conversation that I may not be able to have children easily or at all. I was going to have to see a fertility specialist once I hit that point in my life. And my mom was like, don't worry about that right now. I'll get over it and, cross that bridge when you get to it. My dad listened. He's like, oh, well, what do you need to do? How do you feel? It's going to be all right. He was very comforting. We didn't really have conversations about my period to any like real extent. But when I started missing it, I told him, are you sexually active? No. Okay. Well, then we got to figure out what's going on. That's not normal, because my dad, he would have been 80. So he came from an era where women typically things functioned the way that they were supposed to. Missed periods weren't common. So there was definitely that aspect of him just being there to listen. And I think that sometimes little girls, you don't necessarily want to talk to moms. Women tend to be more emotional. She might not want to hear that. She might be emotional and need a rock at that point in time. So you got to keep your cool too. My husband actually just walked into the room. Should ask his opinion. But But no, I think that it's really important at that point for the father to be very attentive and listen and just hear if there are any red flags. If you're to the point that you have reproduced with the person and you procreated and you're taking care of your child, you have some semblance of what a normal period is in your mind as a man as well. So I think at that point, for me, a man's place is to be more of a listener and to hear that there's not anything going wrong, so to speak. I was also saying to my husband, I can't really explain to you what goes on when I'm feeling the baby or my female reproductive system, because you don't have the same parts as me. So that one's a little bit different. As far as products go, we have to be mindful about these products having bleach. So most pads, most tampons, I don't believe in tampons. I think that we should be trying to use cups. Cups didn't work out well for me. They kept getting stuck or spilling. So I guess I'm just designed differently in that way. But I would encourage the use of cups because they're sustainable. And they're not as messy typically. But we have to make sure that we're not using bleached products. NatraCare has a great line. That's what I tend to use. They have everything from wipes to pads to tampons. So once we're getting out of using the bleach stuff, we're keeping that off of our skin. We're keeping whatever other toxins, because they don't list all of these things in the ingredients. I got so mad. My son's water wipes are supposed to just be water and grapefruit oil. And I found out that they have like a whole bunch of other chemicals in them. And I was upset about that because I wanted to just do cloth wipes regardless. But life didn't really allow for that all the time. But we have to just like know your brands, know that the cheaper it is when it comes to certain things. Unfortunately, in this aspect of life, you really typically are getting what you pay for.
Okay. And so how did you know that it didn't have the products? You went back into doing your research like you talked to us about before, like going to do your research, looking at the company, what's been tested in it.
Absolutely.
And to know that there are other ingredients that they didn't even put on the label.
Yeah, you have to constantly research because they're being sold or they're reformulating. They get a different vendor for something. Then you're not getting what you thought you were 2 weeks ago. And one more thing, the Yucca, Y-U-K-A, I'm not sure how they want that pronounced, so I'm just gonna call it Yucca, is an app that you can use and scan your scan the label, and it'll give you an ingredient list, and it'll tell you what's hazardous, what's probably not the best, but okay, and then what's like a low risk. So that'll give you like good insight on the products that you're using as well.
That's dope. Because I was thinking like, okay, do I need to Google everything? How do I even start? And where do I find that? So I like that. So Yucca, Y-U-K-A app, scan the label and they'll give you more insight on what's going on. I love it. Thank you, Jammie. I appreciate you for that. So pretty much girl dads, father figures, listen, be attentive, be supportive. And then also look at products with no bleach. And use that Yucca app to scan it before you go pick it up from Target or Walmart or the grocery store, just to make sure what you're getting isn't going to be harmful for that person that you love with the womb. So I like it. All right. So final question. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
Oh my God. So that's a tie between Hatshepsut and Shaka Zulu for very different reasons. I'm sure you can imagine. But it's
so let's create the table for three then. You can have it for both. Go ahead, talk to me. Why those two people, and then what will y'all eat?
Well, because she was like the first female ruler of Egypt. You know, like she ruled like completely. She knew her stuff. And I just think to be that influential and to have that much, it would just be a really interesting conversation. And for Shaka Zulu, I've seen some of his quotes and some of the things that he had to go up against. And I think that in certain ways we're up against the same evils. So it would just be interesting to get that warrior's insight on how to deal with certain enemies.
I love it. Okay. Table for three. What y'all eating?
What are we eating? I had some Ethiopian stew yesterday and all I tasted was salt, but I love Ethiopian food. So some sort of Ethiopian like lentil dish would definitely be a factor. We would have some shaved fennel, some sort of like blood orange vinaigrette. I have a culinary background. So for me, I'm like really trying to paint this whole, we can be here all day talking about
You'll definitely have to come for another episode. I am with this. I am with it. We're coming back during Nutrition Month. Yes.
Okay.
Let's get it.
Okay. Definitely.
Go ahead. But I'm listening. We got shaved fennel.
I'm hungry. So I want all this stuff because I'm thinking about lamb shank and everything.
And then when you were thinking about the Ethiopian food, my favorite with the injera is the cabbage, like picking like the cabbage with the cabbage, and then the stuff that has like the different potatoes in it. Like that's my go-to on the platter.
And now I'm thinking about the Trinidadian aloo pie. I don't know if you've had Trini food.
No, yeah, not that one.
We would just have a feast. It wouldn't be
That's what it sounds like. What y'all drinking? Because like this is making me even more hungry. It's okay. What y'all drinking too?
What do we do? Sorrel. I would have some nice sorrel. Obviously, no alcohol.
Okay. I've never even heard of sorrel. What's sorrel like?
Hibiscus flower.
Oh, okay. Now I had some hibiscus. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have some sorrel. Probably a spritzer because I like my club soda. So some of that. Yep.
I'm not
a little drizzle of agave for some sweetness.
Ooh, come on, agave. I like some good agave. We even put that like on our pancakes or, like stuff like that. Like that. That's the go-to. Like no more with the syrups. It's well, the regular type of syrup we're used to. Right. Mrs. Buttersworth, we on the agave vibe over here. And barely even do like the honey anymore. We'll go with the agave sometimes over the honey too. But Bear Jammie, the holistic nutritionist coming through. Man, I enjoyed our vibes today. Let everybody know where they could find you, tap in, link with you. I know you got some other stuff coming up that's brewing. But before you tell them where they could find you, just give them some Jammie words of advice or wisdom as they continue on with their journey of strength. Those who are experiencing issues with polycystic ovarian syndrome, because that's what we have in common, but anybody on their healing journey as well. Give them some Jammie words of wisdom and then tell them where they can link in and find you.
You have to follow your intuition. You have to trust that you know everything that you need to know inherently. You just have to listen to yourself. You have to remember, no matter if whatever religion you fall into, your worship, your prayer, it all starts within you. I think it mentions that in the Bible, that your body is your temple, and that's quite literal. So you want to keep that clean and you want to keep that whole, and you want to start with fixing everything from within. And then everything else will fall into place. You just have to trust that you are good with you. Listen to you, be you.
I love it. That was nice and simple, but it was you. And I love it. Like, I feel like, why not? And I think people take that as a cliche. Your body is a temple, and it's just like, no, that's the one thing you pretty much have the most power over in the most part. And sometimes, the body is so complex. You have to be complex with your approach and how you love on it and choose to embrace it and build it up and connect with it. Go ahead, Jammie.
But it gets us through so much. So we have to reward it. It gets us through everything.
It's the only thing that continues to show up for you every single day. So you're right. Yep. Go ahead. Where can they find you? Where can they find you? What can they do to get some of your insight, your coaching, your influence in their life? Because you were impactful. I felt like it was nothing but value from beginning to end on this episode, and I'm grateful that you said yes to being a guest on the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. I'm grateful that we were able to vibe together. I can't wait to see what our journeys do moving forward, because we already talked about big things popping already. But yeah, let them know where they can get in contact and link up with you.
So Bear Jammie Health and Wellness on Facebook, and then Jammie Nutrition at gmail.com. And we are going to be branching out to Instagram. We have a line coming out. We have the pages, but nothing's up on them yet. But our line is Elixir, and it is a line of supplements to get those nutrients that we need in. So, and they're sea moss based. We actually have something you might be interested in. It's a water that is just sea moss water, and you get your hydration. And you get those sodium channels opening up in the cells so that you're cellularly hydrated. You're getting all those other minerals, your iodine in for your thyroid health, all that good stuff. So yeah, that'll be Sealixer, Sealixr. That's coming up. But in the interim, for nutrition and personal training, you have Bare Jammie Health and Wellness.
I love it. I'm excited about the line. I'm excited about trying the Sealixer just because I want something that tastes good that I can get.
We got chocolate too.
I'm down. I'm ready. I'm ready. So just know, let that be your motivation to getting ready to get the products out there, because I will be there and I'm down for it. But thank you again for coming on that Power Plates and Power Lives podcast, y'all. Please make sure that if you got any value, any insight, that you like, you comment, you subscribe, you let us know what other information you want to hear, because we're here for you. One, we're testifying on where we are in our journeys right now, but we care about being visible and being vocal to support you on your healing journey as well. So make sure you're connected with us. All of her information and my information is at the in the description of this video. But y'all, just keep vibing, keep knowing that you're worth everything that you say you want. But you have to be vigilant in what it is that you say you are going to do to make those healthy habits and lifestyle changes. All right, y'all. Until next time, be well, be loved, but most importantly, be intentional about being intentional. We out.